In consideration of the peacefulness and tranquility which has been established throughout the world for over 100 years after the conquest of the Mongolians, the historians and scholars affirm that the Mongolians, who once were the owners of the largest empire in history, were the people who esteemed the peace an idol. The historical term Pax Mongolica describes the period of relative peace during which the people of different religions and cultures esteem and follow the yasa and justice. The Pax Mongolica, the period of relative peace that lasts over 100 years, is still the imaginative dream for humankind. The effects of the Cold War in the middle of the 20th century would sometimes cause conflicts and struggle in the Northeast Asian region that is rapidly developing. Though Northeast Asia is the region most politically unstable in the world, it always attracts the investors like a magnet, and it is the place where the world's most powerful countries' interests are intersected. Aside from being the largest user of energy, the dense population and the powerful economics in the region have created urgent problems including, but not limited to, environmental pollution, desertification, yellow dust storm, and the hazards of nuclear weapons. A well-developed security strategy and mutual trust lacked in maintaining peaceful coexistence among the Northeast Asian countries. Mongolia, called the oasis of democracy, has no history of showing hostility to any of Northeast Asian 5 countries and is the country that maintains peaceful coexistence. The other world countries consider Mongolia as the country that fits for reconciling and settling the urgent problems in the Korean Peninsula. For our country, it maintains a friendly relationship with both the Republic of Korea and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and in recent years, the country has been taking an active attitude in international relations by hosting international forums and conferences on the topics such as nuclear weapon-free zones and Ulaanbaatar dialogue as a peacekeeper due to our neutral stance in the conflict. Besides carefully observing the peacekeeping operations in the Korean Peninsula, the Global Peace Foundation, Blue Banner, Mongolian Forum for Korea Unification NGO, and the research institutions, civil society organizations, and researchers that conduct studies on Northeast Asia have been initiating and organizing various activities to promote Mongolian participation in the above-mentioned process. While on August 15, 2020, the people celebrate the National Liberation Day in Seoul, Korea, and most other countries throughout the world, the Action for Korea United, the Global Peace Foundation, and its partners have started this series of forums that aim to identify the aspirations for making Korea a free peninsula and the Korean people a united nation since the March 1st independence movement of 1919. Various organizations like the Blue Banner NGO, the Global Peace Foundation, the Action for Korea United, and others have been developing many initiatives raised at the Ulaanbaatar Dialogue Roundtable meeting hosted in 2019 and 2020. We are confident we are to organize online meetings and forums in the future to demonstrate how Mongolia would contribute to creating a nuclear-free Korean peninsula by developing and implementing its initiatives.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I'm happy that you're all taking part in this forum. My name is Ink Saikan Jargal Saikan, and I'm chairman of Blue Banner NGO, which is one of the organizers of this forum on Northeast Asian peaceful development and Korean unification. Other organizers are the Global Peace Foundation, One Korea Foundation, Action for Korea United, and Mongolian Forum for Korean Unification. In today's globalizing world, which is interdependent, the role of every country is important. In the Northeast Asian region, Mongolia is trying to play a positive role, following the saying that duck is calm when the lake is calm, and play a confidence and bridge-building roles in the region through its active foreign policy. It has no territorial or border disputes with its neighbors. maintains good relations with all the countries of the region, including both Koreas, and enjoys internationally recognized nuclear weapons-free status that are supported by the 5 nuclear weapon states. The two Koreas are well aware that Mongolia harbors no hidden political agenda regarding the peninsula and fully supports Korean people's reunification. In fact, it promotes 1.5 track level regional cooperation known as Ulaanbaatar Dialogue, focusing mainly on soft security issues and prospects of regional cooperation in economics, infrastructure development, and other areas of mutual interest and benefit. At the Track 2 level, Blue Banner, together with the Global Partnership for the Prevention of Armed Conflicts, known as GPAC, promotes the so-called Ulaanbaatar process that provides political space and venue for civil society organizations and think tanks to openly discuss regional issues of common interest and concern and take, where possible, some joint actions. Representatives of two Koreas take active part in the 1.5 track and Track 2 regional meetings. It is bearing in mind this constructive role of Mongolia in promoting regional dialogue and confidence that Ulaanbaatar International Roundtable on Northeast Asian peace, development, and on Korean unification has been holding productive discussions and exchanges of views on issues of common concern and interest. With the increased interest and participation in the roundtable meetings, it is being upgraded to Mongolia Forum. However, due to the pandemic, this time the forum is being held in the form of a virtual meeting. We hope to return to hosting the forum in person next year. The organizers are looking forward to this forum that would hopefully be both informative and practically useful in promoting its dual aim of promoting peaceful regional development and Korean reunification, which are all closely interconnected. With these brief introductory remarks, allow me to declare open the first plenary meeting of this forum. We have many prominent participants representing the governments, parliaments, and civil society organizations that have expressed interest in taking part in this plenary meeting and make brief remarks about the issues to be addressed throughout the forum. With these brief remarks, I would like to give the floor to the first speaker of the meeting, Mr. James Flynn, International President, Global Peace Foundation.
Thank you, Ambassador Engsakan, and greetings from Washington, D.C. to all our friends and participants in Mongolia, across Northeast Asia, and around the world. On behalf of the Global Peace Foundation and partners, I would like to welcome you to this special plenary session of the International Forum on One Korea, focusing on Northeast Asian peaceful development and Korean unification. We are pleased to be joined in hosting this convening by our Mongolian colleagues in Ulaanbaatar, together with Blue Banner, Action for Korea United, One Korea Foundation, and the Mongolian Forum on Korean Unification, along with other listed partners. Special thanks to each of them. I would also like to give special thanks to Mongolia's founding president, Orchib, and representatives from the current presidential office and Great Ural for joining this forum, as well as other distinguished figures and organizations in Ulaanbaatar and from the Republic of Korea, United States, Russia, China, Japan, India, Indonesia, and other participating nations. Mongolia, with its historical foundation of Pax Mongolica and remarkable reputation as the land of blue sky, remains a vital, neutral convening hub for these ongoing discussions. Efforts to resolve the highly complicated issues on the divided Korean Peninsula have so far ended in repeated cycles of impasse and failure. Clearly, bold new ideas and a different approach are necessary. That is why the International Forum on One Korea series has been engaging scholars and experts in advancing an innovative new framework that focuses on the goal of a free and unified Korea. The Korean Dream outlines a vision for a unified Korea that represents a real paradigm shift in addressing the division on the Korean Peninsula. It changes the frame through which we examine and analyze the issues involved, from a singular focus on denuclearization to a comprehensive view, including other critical issues such as governance, human rights, and economic development. It provides a lens to assess not only the challenges, but also the significant opportunities that will open for all the Korean people in a free and unified Korea, which will also be a catalyst for peace and development in Northeast Asia and the world. The Korean Dream, inspired by the vision outlined in GPF founder and chairman, Dr. Hyunjin Preston Moon's book of that name, is predicated on the ideals embedded in the ancient Korean ethos of Hangikingdom, or living for the greater benefit of all humanity. It can serve as a guiding framework for building a new nation that can be a catalyst for regional and global peace and development. In view of growing international tensions in the greater Asia-Pacific region, it is our view that such a post-Cold War approach that clearly focuses on the end goal and identifies win-wins for the Korean people and the greater region for peace, security, and shared prosperity is essential and most timely. Today's forum features an impressive group of experts and leaders who will share important analysis and insights on this critical issue. We are confident you will find their presentations both meaningful and highly informative, and hope this discussion inspires you to join with us in building broad international support for a free and unified Korea. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank Mr. Flint for his contribution. The next speaker on the list is Dr. Jae Pyung-ryung, founder and president of One Korea Foundation.
As one of the 5 conveners of this conference, I welcome you all to the Mongolian Forum 2021. While we need to address the ongoing situations, we must also imagine a country of the future, free and united Korea. Beyond being a good country to its own citizens, we also want that country to be a good neighbor as well, a positive force for the security and prosperity of other people and other nations as well. We are here to look together for ways to bring about such a new country, Korea. Korea has had a 5,000-year history, but the free and united Korea we are envisioning today will be a new country in many ways. How will this new Korea be governed? How will the country be served? What guiding axioms or overriding principles of governance of this new nation? Hongik Ingan, living for the greater benefit of all humanity, may well serve as the principle that we seek here. It is not a concept that comes emanating from any ideology, religion, or personalities. The concept says people should be free not because a certain ideology says so, or a certain religion decrees it so, or some charismatic personality insisted on it. The concept says people should be free not because of all this, but because people can only live like human beings when they are free. Koreans of both South and North and abroad have exalted this concept, and it is high time for some international recognition of such a beautiful, splendid concept. Hongik Ingan refers to Ingan, humanity. It can mean all humanity as individuals, or the entire species called Homo sapiens. New One Korea, with its guiding principle of self-government, will stand by the side of humanity above all ideology, nationality, personality, or even science. It will help poor, less modernized countries. It will always stand against tyranny, totalitarianism of right and left. The second component of governance may well come from American history. First would be the American Constitution shaping governance by majority rule, minority rights, separation of powers, checks and balances, Bill of Rights, and so on. The second might be gotten from Abe Lincoln's notion of government of the by and for the people. I would advocate constitution of new One Korea, take the 통일인간 concept as an overall ruling principle and American Constitution as a model for governance structure. The concept of human rights will be a part and parcel of the governance structure of the new One Free Korea. Following the issue of the governance principle is the notion of people or soft power. We have seen the influence of people power before. It showed its effectiveness in anti-apartheid resolution in South Africa, anti-colonialism movement in India, March 1st uprising movement in Korea, civil rights movement, nonviolent movement in America, and many more. Koreans also have become recently something of a super soft power country. Notice the worldwide popularity of K-pop. Most recently, the Squid Game. Its music, movies, documentaries, songs, and dances are becoming global phenomena. I am presently and personally engaged in producing a musical for One Free Korea. Please check with me if interested. Thank you very much, and I wish you all great time throughout the entire conference. Good day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ryu, for your contribution. The next speaker is Mr. Intaxel, co-chair of Action for Korea United.
Greetings from Seoul. It is my privilege and great honor to speak with you in this forum. On behalf of Action for Korea United, as one of the co-conveners, I would like to express my special thanks to Blue Banner, Mongolian Forum for Korea Unification, One Korea Foundation, Global Peace Foundation for partnering this timely and significant forum today. It is needless to address that our future is tied not only between Korea and Mongolia, but also Northeast Asia and the entire world. As we all aware of, there have been so many challenges in this world today. Especially in Northeast Asia, we are facing unique challenges. We are proud of that we made a lot of progress in economy, even in comparison with the other part of the world. However, the security of this region is more unstable than ever. It is becoming our great concern. Due to the geographical proximity, Northeast Asian countries share a similar ethnic background and historical experience in millennia. So much common in culture, but in modern age, when two different Western ideologies were introduced to us, each nation's choice about their future vision was different. It made quite different path for several decades. The confrontations and struggles among nations in modern history of Asia were the result of the choice of each nation made in the past. The consequences of the Cold War still remain in this region. This is a fundamental cause of a major security issue of this region. 155 miles of the length of DMZ in Korean Peninsula is not only military demarcation line, but it is a dividing line of contradicted ideology and thought. So far, the international community is putting a lot of attention to North Korea's nuclear issue and trying to bring a solution to it. But all those attempts have not been bringing the expected outcome yet. This is a time to rethink and honestly admit about the limitation of our efforts up to now. I'm convinced that Korean Dream is the right framework and only framework which we can resolve the problem of Korean Peninsula and the world. Dr. Hyunjin Preston's advocacy that there need a consensus on the end goal and vision for Korea Peninsula is so true. The nuclear issue cannot be separated from other more important issues like economy, human rights, and governance. The strategy should be created comprehensively with a clear vision in mind. The vision should be able to unite Korean people for their future of the unified nation, and it should benefit all neighboring countries by providing the new way of thinking for their own future. I hope all of you to pay attention to Dr. Moon's recent keynote address in Global Peace Convention in August 15th and his book, Korean Dream. Action for Korea United has been working to realize Korean Dream since 2012. Our campaign is focusing on the grassroots in Korea. Our effort will be continued until the peaceful unification is achieved. I hope you join with us for this journey too. Mongolian Forum on One Korea 3 years ago gave me a chance to ride the horse on Mongolian grassland. I hope next year forum is going to be held in Ulaanbaatar without the fear of COVID-19, so I can have another chance to ride the horse. Thank you so much for your attention to my speech. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Oddbayer Irtensokting, who is Foreign Policy Advisor of President of Mongolia.
Your Excellency, President Ochirbat, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and participants, I hereby would like to convey my sincere greetings to all of you, the participants of the annual Mongolia Forum on Northeast Asian Peaceful Development and Korean Peninsula, organized jointly by the Blue Banner, Global Peace Foundation, One Korea Foundation, and Action for Korea United. The spread of COVID-19 is affecting every life on our planet, and people-to-people exchanges between nations are still limited around the world. Nevertheless, I am happy to see that the annual Mongolia Forum is organized virtually, convening together prominent experts, policymakers, journalists, and civil society leaders around the world with its solemn purpose of examining current geopolitical environment, identifying new opportunities, and developing sector-specific and comprehensive solutions for the region. Distinguished guests and representatives, it is vitally important to maintain stability on the Korean Peninsula in order to ensure peace and security in the Northeast Asian region as a whole. As a country of the region, contributing to the security of Northeast Asia has always been one of the main priorities of Mongolia's foreign policy. As you know well, Mongolia has been actively promoting an initiative to strengthen trust, establish a dialogue mechanism for security, and develop mutually beneficial cooperation between Northeast Asian nations. In doing so, Mongolia is guided by the principles of representing and respecting for the opinion of all stakeholders, rather than favoring one side's interest over another, organizing formal and informal meetings at all levels, and holding confidence-based, wide-ranging talks aimed at ensuring peace and stability in the region in the long run. Based on these principles, Ulaanbaatar City has been serving as an important platform that provided opportunities for the Northeast Asian countries to discuss their problems and bring together their positions. Despite the unprecedented inter-Korean and US DPRK talks in 2018 and 2019, the situation on the Korean Peninsula remains complex and continues to pose a major challenge to the security of the region and further blurring the possibilities of progressive inter-Korean dialogue. As a country with well-recognized nuclear weapon-free status, Mongolia firmly adheres to a policy that the Korean Peninsula must be free of nuclear weapons. Mongolia underscores the importance of implementing the joint statement by the US and the DPRK, as well as coordinated implementation of the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. Furthermore, we believe that trust building and mutual understanding is crucial in the region and engagement rather than isolation of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is the key to addressing the region's main security challenge. Hence, along with the implementation of the UN Security Council resolutions, the dialogue channel should be kept open and the sides should aim to resolve the issues of their concern through dialogue and talks. The NGO Blue Banner, which has been a firm supporter of the nuclear weapon-free status of Mongolia and promoted efforts to guarantee it within the framework of international law, has also been actively supporting efforts to strengthen stability and mutual trust in Northeast Asia. It has become evident that NGOs and civil societies represent the force for peace that has a capacity to positively influence regional politics. I am happy to note that the Blue Banner, with its vast expertise, would be able to contribute to the peace and security on the Korean Peninsula. To conclude my notes, I would like to underscore the value and importance of proposals and recommendations made by the prominent experts and research institutions to the common efforts to uphold trust in the region that would ultimately lead to the peaceful settlement on the Korean Peninsula. I would like to thank all of you for taking part in the forum, and I wish success to the conference and participants and to the organizers. Thank you for your attention.
Now I would like to thank Mr. Odbayer for his presentation. The next speaker on my list is His Excellency Mr. Ochirbat Phonsalmagin, first democratically elected president of Mongolia, and he's also president of Blue Banner NGO and Mongolian Forum for Korean Unification. You have the floor, Your Excellency.
First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude towards the forum organizers. The dialogues and discussions that consider the Korean Peninsula issues in close coordination with the peace, stabilization, growth and development in Northeast Asia were hosted in many countries at various levels. One of them is today's forum. As far as I remember, such an event is organized annually in the third year in Mongolia. Nevertheless, it appears that the scope of participants has increased still more, and the scale is advanced to compare with those of previous years, though it is organized during the COVID-19 pandemic. It is not because of the forum organizers. Of course, it is because of the issue in dialogue and the period. In terms of issue, that's the issue related to the peace, stabilization, growth, and development in the Korean Peninsula. Furthermore, the issue is related to the mission of Korean unification. Though on one side, it seems that it is a Korean Peninsula issue in terms of geographical location. This is a global issue associated with both regional and global peace and security on the other side. In terms of period, that is the hot-burning and critical issue. It has already passed almost 200 years since the peninsula has become the most turbulent, controversial, and defenseless point in Northeast Asia. The second generation of the people has arrived. Among the materials I have found, there is disturbing news. Only 4% of the total population of the Republic of Korea supported Korean unification, according to the public opinion poll that was conducted by the Institute for Peace and Unification Studies of Seoul National University in the early of this month. As time has gone, the people's aspiration for unification has reduced, and the majority percent of those people who don't promote Korean unification were young people. Of course, the Korean unification issue covers many problems like politics, security, economics, and other social issues. Also, the social system issues will be raised. Moreover, the issue covers the strategic interests of the main countries concerned. Thus, the issue is a complicated one itself. In connection with these, the higher power dialogues, such as politics and security, have outranked over the period in the past as an extremely unilateral attitude. Although it was effective in some ways, such hard power policy didn't bring a good outcome in making the peninsula a nuclear weapon-free zone. It means the issue was put on a deadlock. Hence, I suggest a new way that combines economics and social issues aside from political dialogues. In other words, it means we should bring together the hard power and the soft power. As the beginning of our plan, we may mitigate the condition by offering a snapback of economic sanction for providing a condition that enables the economic and social cooperation between North and South Korea. It will be beneficial to activate the relationship between North Korea and South Korea. Only close cooperation and relationships can create trust. The German experience says so. For the region, one way to make the Democratic People's Republic of Korea interested in economic cooperation can be the railway network. The leaders of the country were interested in this issue in 1970s and 80s. That may be the politically significant variant in terms of not only economics but also politics, I think. Good luck with the forum and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ochibat. The next speaker is the Honorable Tokhtbatr Demdinin, who is Member of Parliament of Mongolia and former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia. You have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend my greetings to all the participants to the conference on Northeast Asia. Well, Mongolia being an active member and regional actor in Northeast Asia, we've been always trying to have and maintain constructive dialogue and engagement with the countries in the region, especially when it comes to the stability and security in the region, which is one of the fundamental elements of facilitating economic growth in Mongolia. The government of Mongolia was always trying to take part in a constructive manner in maintaining peace and stability in our region. Being a country that has started transformation into market economy and democracy, Mongolia needed close, uninterrupted economic cooperation with our region. And this stability in the region was a great contributor from which Mongolia benefited. And since we do not, as a responsible member of the global community, as a responsible member of the United Nations, we view as our responsibility to engage with all the countries in the region, especially on the Korean Peninsula, to engage with these countries to make sure that stability, predictability is there in our region. Also, given the fact Mongolia is located in a region that is infested with nuclear weapons, our region is one of the hosts of major nuclear powers. And therefore, we are standing up for very strong regime of nuclear non-proliferation. And from this perspective, we've been engaging with Korean Peninsula actors, with the North Koreans, with the view to convince that nuclear non-proliferation is an important element, at least of our country, which has been maintaining close relationship over decades. And very important thing is that when Mongolia declared its territory as nuclear weapon-free zone, this is not just a declaration. We wanted this ideal and this view to expand beyond our territory and to reach other countries. And from this perspective, we wanted to maintain very direct dialogue with the countries in the region. Mongolia announcing its territory nuclear weapon-free zone, Kazakhstan followed suit. And we wanted more and more countries to come in and join us in declaring their territories nuclear weapon-free zone. And if we have strong system of countries in our region that has nuclear weapon-free zone, to that extent we view that the security in the region will be strengthened. And again, from this perspective, we've been maintaining a very close dialogue with North Koreans. Also, in terms of six-party talks as well, we wanted to engage with the North Koreans so that they maintain their motive and to maintain their motivation to be part of six-party talks. And we really view that we should be exploiting to the fullest the potentials of diplomacy in our region. And there is no alternative to diplomacy. Diplomacy is the only means that will be securing productive and fertile base for growth in our region. If we're talking about development, this development should be benefiting every citizen. But if we lose balance in our region, and especially given the fact that in the North Korean, on the North Korean peninsula, the war technically is not over. We're still living, it is the only region that stays technically at war. And therefore, an important objective of any country in our region would be to prevent the flaring up of this status quo into hostility. And again, we've been maintaining very close contacts with six-party talk countries in order to maintain this mood of dialogue, maintain the mood of negotiations. Yes, unfortunately, six-party talks got stalled, but still there are new avenues of talks, and the issue is not over yet. And nuclear testing is still going on. And from this perspective, what we view is that Mongolia should be engaging in more active dialogues with all the relevant parties in our region to expand this mode of cooperation, dialogue, diplomacy, and also to do everything possible to strengthen the confidence of the countries in each other. And this preventive diplomacy based on confidence building still remains to be a key factor in determining the future of our region. And I'm very happy that you are not giving up on the hope for peace in our region. And you're gathering together in this roundtable talks in order to look for ways of starting the negotiations and talk. And I wish you all the success. And with the diplomatic efforts, I'm pretty sure that we should be able to preserve stability and peace in our region. And this is the best benefit for which no justification, no economic justification, or any other justification is needed. It is needed just as it is. And for that, we should be standing up together. And thank you for this enthusiasm to do the job to this end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tokbater, for your contribution. The next on the list is Mr. Gregory May, Deputy Chief of Mission of U.S. Embassy in Mongolia.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Greg May, and I am the Deputy Chief of Mission at the United States Embassy in Mongolia. It is my pleasure to join you at this International Forum on One Korea. Thank you to Ambassador Enk Saihan and the other organizers of this important event. It is fitting that Mongolian organizations are hosting this event because Mongolia has played a very constructive role in seeking peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. The United States commends Mongolia for its leadership in this area and its efforts over the years to facilitate Track 2 exchanges, such as the Ulaanbaatar Dialogue and other forums. I would like to speak today about the United States policy. Our goal remains the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. We are pursuing a calibrated, practical approach towards diplomacy that increases the security of the United States and our allies. We have no hostile intent towards the DPRK and remain open to meeting without preconditions. In our messages, we have made specific proposals for discussions with the DPRK. Diplomacy and dialogue, based on previous commitments, such as the 2018 Panmunjom Declaration and the Singapore Joint Statement, are essential to achieve the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and bring permanent peace. The DPRK must decide if it is serious about engagement. The Biden administration places great importance on solving the challenges presented by the DPRK by working with allies and partners, especially those in the region, such as Mongolia. We will also continue to work with China and Russia on these issues. They have an important role to play in ensuring UN sanctions are effectively implemented and encouraging the DPRK to engage seriously. If the DPRK returns to more provocations, the international community must work together to send a strong signal to the DPRK that such behavior only exacerbates its isolation and hinders progress in securing peace and stability. We will be in close contact with our allies and partners in the event of a provocation, and our response will take into account the degree of threat to the United States and to our allies. One example of provocations is DPRK missile launches. The United States condemns the DPRK's missile launches. The DPRK's ongoing efforts to advance its weapons programs in violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions clearly illustrate the need for effective implementation of sanctions. All member states have a duty to implement their UN Security Council resolution obligations. Mongolia has been a positive example of sanctions enforcement, including by repatriating all DPRK guest workers well before the December 2019 deadline and preventing further exploitation of North Korean laborers. I want to stress that United States and UN sanctions are not intended to have adverse humanitarian consequences for the DPRK or to restrict food aid or humanitarian assistance not prohibited by UN Security Council resolutions. We have led efforts to streamline the process for humanitarian sanctions exemptions at the UN Security Council's 718 Committee, but fundamentally, the DPRK is responsible for the welfare of its people, and it is well established that the government has continued to exploit its own citizens in pursuit of illicit nuclear and ballistic weapons programs. Again, I want to thank the organizers of this conference for their efforts to bring peace and stability to the Korean Peninsula, a goal that I know all of us share. Thank you for your time, and I wish you a successful forum.
Thank you, Mr. May, for your contribution. The next on the list is Congressman Butterfield, member of U.S. House of Representatives.
Greetings to the leaders and hosts in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, to the fellow parliamentarians, to the distinguished civic figures and scholars in Seoul with Action for Korea United, and to my good friends with the Global Peace Foundation. I bring each of you warm greetings from Washington, D.C. I am U.S. Congressman G.K. Butterfield, representing the 1st District of North Carolina. I serve in the House of Representatives, have done so for the past 17 years. I am very pleased to speak with you today in solidarity of achieving a free and united Korea. It's fitting for a forum about peace on the Korean Peninsula to take place in Mongolia. Mongolia is a model nation. We all know that, or we should know that. Mongolia is a model nation, promoting denuclearization, successfully transitioning to a market-based economy, and consistently maintaining positive relations with its neighbors in a diverse and consequential region of the world. It's unfortunate that you are gathered and I am speaking to you about the continued threat of North Korea moving in the wrong direction. That is my opinion. North Korea is moving in the wrong direction. North Korea is now in control of nuclear and ballistic missiles that not only threaten Korea and its neighbors, but it also threatens the West, us here in the United States. This situation must be resolved with innovative new approaches like those being talked about at this forum. And so I applaud you. I applaud each of you for charting new paths toward a united and unified Korea. These new paths could be key to solving the nuclear crisis of the Korean Peninsula and a catalyst for sustainable Northeast Asia regional peace and stability. I agree with my President Biden, who affirmed his commitment to keep pressing toward a denuclearized North Korea and a unified Korean Peninsula. That's what President Joe Biden said. Again, President Biden said, keep pressing toward a denuclearized North Korea and a unified peninsula. We must all keep pressing toward that goal. And so, I thank each of you for your participation in this forum and for sharing in President Biden's goal for the Korean Peninsula. The leaders, young and old, convening once again to address the challenges on the Korean Peninsula. Your deliberations and your collaboration, these are bringing us closer to the realization of peace, to the realization of freedom and stability on the Korean Peninsula and throughout Northeast Asia. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your leadership. And thank you for listening. Congressman G.K. Butterfield, United States House of Representatives, representing the 1st District of North Carolina.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Joo-Sung Kim, former president of Korean National University of Education.
This is Joo-Sung Kim, former president of Korea National University of Education. I'm very glad to have a chance to speak at this International Forum on One Korea, Mongolian Forum. Recently, the scene of world politics changes a lot. For about 30 years, we have been living peacefully without serious clashes between great powers since the end of Cold War. But now we feel not easy as before. The US and the PRC are in dispute for almost all issues. The disputes started with trade issues and developed into military ones. A few weeks ago, more than 50 combat planes of mainland China invaded Taiwanese air defense identification zone. Does this incident show that Colin Gray, a deceased English scholar, is right? He published a book in 2005 named Another Bloody Century, in which he had anticipated that there would be a re-emergence of great power rivalry by 2020. Thinking specifically about Russia and China, he challenged the prevalent notion at the time that decisive war between major states is rapidly moving towards a history's dustbin. We are not sure whether Colin Gray is right or wrong, but sure that if he is right, the conflict between the US and the PRC must be as much bloody as the last century's war, such as the First World War started in 1914, the Second World War started in 1939, and the Cold War ended in 1991. The conflict between the US and the PRC is a kind of rivalry between different political civilizations. The First World War was between kingship states and liberal democratic states. The Second World War between fascist totalitarian states and liberal democratic states, and the Cold War between non-market communist totalitarian states and liberal democratic states. Liberal democracy had won all the other political ideologies. Now, the conflict between the US and the PRC is between liberal democracy and market communist totalitarianism. When Francis Fukuyama wrote the book, The End of History, in 1992, we all thought that no rivals would appear against liberal democratic civilization. We all believed that if we introduce market systems to the survived communist countries and lead them into world market, they will soon enjoy sweetness of economic abundance and change their political system. The PRC imported market system under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping in 1978 and joined the WTO with the help of President Clinton. Since then, the economy of the PRC has been booming and now grows into an economic giant next to the US. However, the PRC does not allow its people to enjoy political liberty and free speech. Its totalitarian control grows stronger and stronger. There is no hope for liberal democracy in the mainland China. If there comes a war in the Far East, it must be the last duty of liberal democracy to fight against the communist totalitarianism. It is inevitable as far as we, the mankind, cannot live under totalitarian rule. Totalitarian states oppress not only their own people, but also the people of other countries, such as we have seen in the last century. It is too inhuman and cruel to endure. No real peace could exist between liberal democratic states and totalitarian ones, but only provisional truce. Thus, we must manage our situation in order for it not to develop into war as far as possible. Now, the Korean Unification Project must be operated under this perspective. North Korea is a typical country of totalitarianism, even much harsher than the PRC. Necessary condition of Korea unification is the democratization of North Korean political system. Its sufficient condition is the democratization of North Korean political culture. The strategy for Korea unification under the dangerous situation of hegemonic rivalry must be cautious. The first step is to consolidate solidarity with neighboring liberal democratic states such as Mongolia. Mongolians have the same origin of race and culture as Koreans. Mongolian role in international politics for Korea unification is crucial because of its geographical position, which lies between mainland China and Russia. The national power of Mongolia is crucial for Korea unification in the future. Korea must help Mongolia to be strong enough economically and politically to survive the pressures of two neighboring superpowers. By way of it, Korea must develop close and tight relationship with Mongolia. Thank you very much for hearing my speech. I hope this forum will be in great success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jun-Sung Kim, for your presentation. Next on the list is Dr. Hyung-Il Hong, Chancellor, Korea National Diplomatic Academy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Hyun-Il Hong, Chancellor of the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. I'm very much honored to be able to give you this opening presentation today at the Mongolia Mon Korea International Forum for Northeast Asian Peaceful Development and Korean Unification. Currently, the widely spreading corona pandemic and the ever-intensifying confrontation between the United States and China have made countries in the Northeast Asia difficult to cooperate with one another. Despite such difficulties, now is a critical time that we Northeast Asian countries are urgently demanded to cooperate with each other and make joint efforts for prosperity and peace, especially in the following fields as coping with climate and environmental issues, securing safety from industrial disasters such as nuclear accidents, and resolving the North Korean nuclear program. In this sense, I highly appreciate and sincerely congratulate holding this forum with a special aim to promote our cooperation for Northeast Asian peaceful development and Korean unification. Today, I would like to talk about peaceful Korean unification. I'd like to draw your attention particularly to those lessons that German unification, already achieved in October 1990, can teach us about peaceful Korean unification. Germany achieved its peaceful unification just 17 years after East and West Germany, starting with Chancellor Brandt's Ostpolitik, joined the United Nations in 1973. On the other hand, for South and North Koreas, 30 years have passed since the two Koreas joined the United Nations in September 1991. Yet, conflict and confrontation still continue between the two Koreas, and they make prospects for resolution of the national division bleak. I would like to suggest how to bring closer peaceful Korean unification by pointing out some important lessons from German reunification. First, as for West Germany, it had implemented and continued its policies of reconciliation, exchanges, and cooperation with East Germany in a consistent manner from the time of the progressive Brandt government up to the last called conservative government that achieved reunification. In contrast, for South Korea, its progressive South Korean government adopted a policy of reconciliation and cooperation with the North, while the conservative South Korean government held on to its ideology-based hardline policy toward North Korea. Thus, inter-Korean exchanges and cooperation almost frozen and coming to a standstill. Thus, in order for the Korean Peninsula to move toward its peaceful unification, it's advised that the next South Korean government, to be launched in May next year, should re-implement its North Korean policies of reconciliation and cooperation, of peace and prosperity, regardless of the government's ideological orientation. Second, there is one critical factor for actualizing German reunification. It was the overcoming of the opposition from the Soviet Union, which could have rejected German being reunited. In the similar vein, in order for Korean unification to be achievable, we have to make sure that the ROK-US alliance should be characterized neither as anti-China nor as anti-Russia, so that China and Russia both can send a green light for Korean unification. Lastly, Germany has the history of having provoked 5 major wars before its forced division. Therefore, Germany has led the efforts for bringing peace and common prosperity to Europe, particularly by forming and operating EU, and by founding and developing the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. This attitude relieved the neighboring European nations of their possible worry about German reunification. South and North Koreas, which had never invaded neighboring countries, were forced to be divided by the power political compromise between the US and the Soviet Union. Still, neighboring countries might not be willing to give their full support to Korean unification until they are sure that a unified Korea will contribute to peace and common prosperity. That said, I strongly suggest that South Korea should take the lead, and all other nations in Northeast Asia, including Mongolia, should get united to help promote exchanges and cooperation in the Northeast Asian region in the following various areas, such as environment, pandemic eradication, public health, nuclear safety, coping with natural disasters, solving the North Korean nuclear program, and many other common peace and sustainable development projects. Achieving this will be a crucial way to build a peaceful and prosperous community in Northeast Asia, and to bring peaceful Korean unification at the same time. I'd like to thank you for your attention. I wish that the Mongolian Forum will achieve a great success to exchange various constructive opinions and develop creative ways of cooperation.
Thank you, Dr. Hyung-Il Hong, for your presentation. The next on the list is Dr. Mabel Liu Miao, founder and Secretary General, Center for China and Globalization.
Hello everyone, I'm Mabel Miao, founder and the Secretary General of Center for China and Globalization. I'm very pleased to attend this international forum on One Korea. Today, I would like, through the virtual space, to send my congratulations for the opening of this conference, and thanks for the host and the co-hosts of this forum. This conference is an important platform for gathering suggestions and recommendations for the peaceful unification of Korea Peninsula. I was invited to participate in this forum in Seoul in 2018 and was quite impressed by the dynamics of these participants. China and Korea are longtime neighbors for dozens of centuries. We are culturally close and historically connected, given our geographic locations. Nowadays, we are concerned about the peninsula as it has been divided for more than 7 decades, which has led to the military turbulence and political standoff of Koreans and other parties. Moreover, the nuclear proliferation problem emerged in 1990s has been increasingly serious. The international community needs to address it now. The nuclear-free and peaceful Korea Peninsula is in line with the interests of Korea, China, and other stakeholders. China has always been supporting the peaceful settlement of the nuclear problem through equal and thorough dialogue. Recently, President Moon of ROK called for the declaration to formally end the Korea War in UN General Assembly. China agrees on ending the war state on the peninsula and hopes to replace the armistice with a peace regime. It is a consensus that the unification cannot be realized until the final and absolute peace is established in the peninsula. Due to the geographically position and geopolitically position, the Korea Peninsula is strategically crucial to its neighbor countries. It serves as a bridge connecting Asia and Europe, and the gateway to the West Pacific. A peaceful and prosperous Korea is a key for the future development of Northeast Asia. It may also be a potential contributor to the world economy, taking ROK as the 10th largest economy in the world into consideration. Moreover, an integrated Korea Peninsula would finally bridge the Pacific and the Atlantic, consequently boosting the economies along the North Eurasia continent. A better integrated peninsula may also bring profits to regional security and cooperation. The geopolitical situation may improve as military confrontation is less possible when more equal security mechanisms replace current Cold War-like system. China is happy to see the two sides going closer through a peace process. The case should be decided and settled by the Korean people in both DPRK and the ORK themselves. China can make contributions to the unification and denuclearization on the Korea Peninsula that is not only benefiting Asia-Pacific countries, but also the US and elsewhere. It actually, with China's help at the two-side summit talk in Pyongyang in 2000, thanks to China's good relations with them. China also welcomed President Moon's visit to Pyongyang in 2018. Multilateralism is always an acceptable option for the peace talk in Peninsula. To achieve the first step leading to permanent peace in this area, for party talk, including DPRK, ROK, China, and the US, need to resume. This requires multilateral agreements and the cooperation of third-party nations. A multilateral framework needs to be established to give each actor enough space of negotiation. I think China and the US could work as mediators rather than deciders in this process. Let Korean people decide. The other parties in this region, particularly Mongolia, as a neutral country, has a unique role in Northeast Asia. We would include Mongolia into multi-party framework to better balance the power structure in peace settlement. We are glad that Mongolia has already engaged in this area and contribute in holding the Forum on Peaceful Development and Korea Unification. China also can play a role on boosting the economy in Korea Peninsula and the area around. I think the regional integration of a new China-Korea-Japan corridor would help to stimulate economic development. DPRK is always welcome to join, which will hopefully narrow down its economic gap with others. A trilateral China-Japan-Korea FTA can also take into account it. All this can help to increase cross-border investments, trade, and tourism, which would generate more jobs and GDP. To boost economic development, infrastructure facilities, such as railways, airports, and ports, are needed in Peninsula, especially along the way connecting Peninsula and the Eurasia continent. The Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank could help finance the peninsula when the two sides have the need to connect its infrastructure. People-to-people exchanges and cultural communication are also a great part for the final unification of the peninsula. Think tanks are very important player in these areas. I am from CCG, a leading non-governmental think tank ranked one of top 100 think tanks in the world by the University of Peninsula European Global Think Tank Index to promote cultural communication and structural dialogue. CCG holds almost 100 meetings, conferences, seminars every year and hosts visitors from many countries, including VIPs from Korea Peninsula. We also run a project named Global Young Leaders Dialogue, GYLD. CCG believe that the dialogues and the interactions may deepen understandings of each other and reduce the risk of confrontation. I believe we can take actions in this way, not only for unification of Korea Peninsula, but also for the prosperity of Greater North Asia and the world. It is beneficial to both Asia and the world. Once again, I appreciate this opportunity to speak to all of you at the virtual conference. I want to thank the organizers of this conference and the International Forum of Korea. We would like to welcome all the initiatives, all the collaborations on the Korea Peninsula and Asia and around the world. We are looking forward to seeing all of you in Beijing next time as well. Thank you very much.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Nobuo Tanaka, former Executive Director of International Energy Agency.
Hello, this is Nobuo Tanaka, the former Executive Director of the IEA and the Chair of the Innovation for Cool Earth Forum. Today, it is a great honor for me to be invited to this Mongol Forum for Northeast Asia Peaceful Development and Korea Unification. I will talk about the future of energy transformation in Northeast Asia and also Japan's role for the denuclearization of Korean Peninsula. Let me share the slide today. When I was Executive Director of the IEA in 2011, we announced that a golden age of natural gas is coming. It's because of the shale gas revolution in North America and also the huge demand increase of gas or clean energy in Asia, China, India, ASEAN countries, Japan, Korea. So with these two elements, the golden age of gas has come. Masayoshi Son the SoftBank's CEO is promoting the idea called Asian Super Grid. He called it energy for peace in Asia. He's very visionary, but this is very similar to the idea of Chinese global energy interconnection. I think this is a very important part of using more renewables in this region. And I think this is a very important part of Northeast Asia Clean Energy Platform. Also, this pipeline forum could be transformed to the hydrogen pipeline forum too. I am, as a chair of this Northeast Asian Gas Pipeline Infrastructure Forum, I am trying to convince our partners like China, Mongolia, Korea, and Russia to go that direction together. Nuclear part. Japan has developed the very much of the good reputation of peaceful user of nuclear power. Unfortunately, because of the Fukushima accident, we lost the confidence of global community for the safety operation of our reactor. But we have to recover their reputation of decontamination and decommissioning of the Fukushima site with new technologies. But also, we want to propose concrete step toward denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. If North Korea give up the nuclear weapon, I am proposing to our government to offer the purchase of North Korean plutonium. It's just 40 kilograms, and burn it in our nuclear power plant in Kashiwazaki, Kariwa. We have 47 tons of plutonium in our stock. So it's nothing. By doing so, our nuclear power can be used to reduce the weapon in North Korea, and South Korea can contribute by burning their enriched uranium and dilute it for their light water reactor. So together with Korea, Japan, and the United States can contribute to the denuclearization of North Korea. I think Japan should join the nuclear weapon ban treaty and propose to the members of signatories to come to Hiroshima and start the first session. And we may call this treaty as a Hiroshima and Nagasaki Treaty. Prime Minister Kishida, the new Prime Minister, he's from Hiroshima. Why not proposing this kind of initiative to show Japan is very strongly committed to the peaceful use and not to produce any weapon? We can put our plutonium, excess plutonium, under the custody of the IAEA. We can play much more active role of developing the advanced nuclear technology which can reduce the risk of proliferation and at the same time enhance the safety, passive safety, and also reducing the risk of the waste, high-level waste. And this technology now, Japan and Korea are working together with United States Idaho National Laboratory. The technology is called Versatile Test Reactor or Integral Fast Reactor. Ladies and gentlemen, in the nuclear also can be used to produce hydrogen. And this hydrogen can be put into the hydrogen pipeline network. I think there are plenty of technologies and opportunities for Northeast Asia to work together to create the clean energy platform for the future. Thank you very much for your attention and invitation to this forum.
Thank you, Dr. Nobuo Tanaka, for your presentation. With this, we end the list of speakers for this session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the participants of this plenary meeting for their words of support and encouragement, as well as for their useful remarks regarding the issues to be discussed in the sessions throughout the 3 days. I'm sure that their remarks would be useful for in-depth discussion of each of the 6 important sessions. I would also like to underline that you are all welcome to participate in any or all of these sessions and contribute your ideas and suggestions. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone once again and wish you all further successes in your noble endeavors, as well as good health to you and to your loved ones. Thank you.